Joining me on Impact Catalyst is the CEO of Florida Resurrection House, Ellen McDonald. Welcome.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you back. It's been about 18 months or so, and a little bit of life has happened between then and now.
A pandemic, restructuring a program. I'm thinking specifically about the kind of life that's happened just for Floridians in the past week.
Yeah.
Things are always happening around this area.
And all of those things have massive impacts on our homeless and challenged population. So you mentioned in there one of your big changes was sort of a change to the fabric of how you do things at Florida Resurrection House. Can you update us on the latest there?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, for kind of a throwback, Resurrection House has been serving the St. Petersburg area since 1987. And the heart of our work has always been to work with families who are experiencing homelessness long-term, and give them the time and space they need to truly change their lives. So we say our work is to end the cycle of generational poverty for families with children. And I started as the CEO in January of 2020, which, talk about a lot of life to live, right? All of 2020, I think for all of us was a shock, but, it did something special for us at Resurrection House. It did two things. One, as most programs, we had to totally close down our campus, right? We couldn't allow very many people on or off. We really only had our participants. As we know, it also created a massive need, right? Shelters were having huge numbers of calls for families and just anybody experiencing homelessness, because those eviction stays did not cover people living in motels. So the people that were closest to experiencing homelessness really are not affected by that and came out in large numbers. So our campus quickly filled, and also we weren't able to focus on anything other than what do you truly need to be successful in life? And so we spent that time really listening to our participants, listening to our past graduates, talking with our board and other programs in the area. And we came to create what's now known as our resiliency building model, which is really built on three core ideas. One is that we're trauma informed, meaning we understand that everybody who lives with us has experienced pretty significant trauma in their life. And so our program is based on caring for that trauma and understand how it's affecting today's reality. Second, we understand that parents and children need to grow together, that our program has to address not only the needs of a parent, but also the needs of a child. And so we work in a 2-generation model, which is all kind of based around this idea of resilience, which is maybe a word we've all heard a lot. It's kind of, a catchy word in today's therapeutic models, but really resiliency is measurable. And there's actually tools out there that help us understand how resilient families are and the way it affects their ability to leave homelessness. And so we've got this great big encompassing model we've created that spans from providing housing for 1 to 3 years, case management services, the things you'd expect like educational and career building. But then we really dig in to what we call the soft skills you might have heard. So social emotional curriculum for parents and children, everybody engaging in mental health services, having a positive community that surrounds them. This is really what has become the therapeutic model of Florida Resurrection House, and it is producing extraordinary results since we've made this transition. It's really quite exciting.
And I assume that would be a big part of a key component of the resiliency, because you can provide the services, but if some of this situational, whether it be responses to trauma or situational understandings don't change, then they're just going to repeat to what got them there in the first place, sort of.
That's right. There's something that's called ACEs for short. It's called the Adverse Childhood Experience Survey. About 20 years ago, scientists started asking, Why are people in low income areas having greater rates of heart disease, diabetes, anxiety, depression? There's actually 10 different things they found that the rates are way higher in lower income areas than they are in middle or higher income areas. And as they kept asking questions and doing the work, they brought it down to the early childhood experience, things that happen like abuse, neglect, family dysfunction. And the higher rate of those three things happening, the more likely outcome that an adult will suffer some of those things that I listed. And so when we start understanding that the things that happen to us in the first 18 years of life truly do have a large impact on the rest of our success, well, then we realize we have to start paying attention to it. And we have people on our campus who are in their 40s but have never experienced even one day of mental health services, even though an ACEs score can only be as high as a 10, and our average score for our parents is around an 8. So we're talking about families who have experienced extreme levels of trauma and never been given the opportunity to take the time to work through it. And so we see that playing out in a variety of ways that have resulted in homelessness for them and their children.
And with these types of traumas, they're all, while they might fall in the general categories, they're very specific to the person, and even the specific thing that happened to them is kind of juxtaposed against other elements of their personality or even their genetic makeup. And so each of those requires a very intense interaction to really move the needle on. And in fact, one of the items in your I'm looking at the circle that you have of the different services is intensive case management. So can you explain about what intensive case management is, and does it kind of jump into that place?
Yeah, I love that you referenced our circle. We're just so proud of it, because how else do you explain this level of services besides a great graphic? So if you're listening to this podcast and you'd like to know what we're talking about, you can visit our website and click what we do. So intensive case management really is the very first thing that happens when families move on our campus. So they come and live with us for 1 to 3 years. But literally the first week they move in, they are introduced to their case manager, and they will spend 3 years working with the same case manager week after week after week. And so in the beginning of their time with us, they create a goal list, the things they'd like to achieve in the next 3 years. And our case managers help them make an action plan to reach those goals. And we're looking not only at, I want a job that pays a living wage, but also at, I want to work through some of the things that happened. I want to build greater attachment with my children, right? We're talking about whole life goals. And then they will meet with their case manager a minimum of once a week, but often in the beginning, even twice a week. And this person will be their trusted confidant, their accountability partner, the one who helps them look through options. If you think of the most supportive person in your life, that's what the case manager looks like for our families, while also being the person who's always going to tell them the truth, right? When it's time to make decisions. And, on average, many people are not seeing case managers in other types of programming more than once a month. So you can see why we really call it intensive.
Sure.
They're getting that level of touch with our case managers.
And with that level of service, you're constantly going to be pushing up against the limits of your resources. You're constantly fighting. Do we serve? How many people can we serve without losing the effectiveness of that that needed deep dive with people? So how do you walk that line?
So I think what's interesting is we've worked for a really long time in one model, which is we have on-campus housing, right? And we can only serve the number of people that can fit in that housing. So right now that's 15 apartments, which usually comes out to being about 50 people at any given time. But what we know is that in the most recent ALICE report in Pinellas County, which stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, but Employed. It's produced by United Way Suncoast every year. They found that 46% of families in Pinellas County are struggling to access their very most basic needs: food, shelter, healthcare, childcare. And so we know that 15 families is an incredible service that we've been providing all this time, but there's more need in our community. And so, when you talk about resources, it's always hard to decide when is the right time to expand. But we have met some incredible partners in the last, year and a half that have decided to fund a new expansion for us, where we're looking at partnering with families who live in affordable housing communities and actually starting to provide some of our services off campus. It's going to be a real test model. We have some incredible other nonprofit partners who are going to be in this with us. But the balance when you're doing nonprofit work is always need, right? There'll always be more need than your resources probably can cover. But we've looked for strategic partnerships that want to fund something new in this last year and have found them. But it will be expensive to reach out. And so the thing we know about St. Petersburg is there's some wonderful companies and individuals and granting agencies who are really interested in moving the needle on affordable housing and our housing crisis. And we're going to be part of that journey.
That's great. And when it comes to growing the business of your nonprofit, you're actually aligned with an organization who specializes in assisting with that. That's Social Venture Partners. And you're participating in their Fast Pitch competition, which is coming up, supported by the Community Foundation in Tampa Bay. You have a mentor within the group. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and why you got involved with Social Venture Partners and Fast Pitch?
Yeah, when you are in a nonprofit that's asset constrained itself, right? You're always looking for places to create new alliances and partnerships. And through our work with the Community Foundation for other reasons, I started hearing about this idea of Fast Pitch, and I actually knew some of the people who were in Social Venture Partners. And when we consider the idea that we're currently in growth mode, I can't think of a better place to put ourselves but under the mentorship of entrepreneurs, right? Nonprofit is, I think sometimes we get categorized like we're something other than a business, but we're really not. We're functioning for a wonderful purpose. But we still have to be smart and savvy and go after great opportunities. And I think that Social Venture Partners really understands that. They understand how to train nonprofits to think like savvy entrepreneurs and look for resources in places that maybe we previously haven't. And so we were really excited to get those. I think it's like 8 weeks of classes that you go through, along with having a one-on-one mentor. And, it's always fun to get out into the community and stand in front of a group and share about our mission that we're so passionate about.
It's wonderful. Well, we will look forward to seeing you participate. It's, I believe, November 2nd this year. And you'll be up on stage telling your story and competing against some of the other folks. But more importantly, you'll have gone through 8 weeks of good learning on how to make the organization grow and scale. And it sounds like you're off to a great start with that. So we'll look forward to catching up maybe in another year or so and seeing if you've doubled or tripled or quadrupled in size, but very much appreciate the great work that Florida Resurrection House has done thus far.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe. Looking forward to it. Hope everybody comes out. I think it's going to be a fun night from what I've heard. And I guess our pattern is to talk to each other every 18 months. So see you then.
All right. Until then, be well.
You as well.